6-3, 7-5 in 2 hours and 38 minutes. That was her second WTA 125 title and her first on grass. She said afterward, "Lifting this trophy does not mean that I will be among the greats yet." That sentence matters. It tells you who showed up in Berlin. Not someone riding a wave of hype. Someone who had just spent a week proving something to herself, and who understood exactly how much more proof was still required. Her first-round opponent in Berlin was Vekic. Not a comfortable opener. Vekic had just won Queen's Club. She was playing the best grass-court tennis of her career, riding consecutive match wins, hitting with power and timing that had dismantled top players all week in London. And for a set and a half, this match was a knife fight. Vekic broke early, raced to 2-0, looked every bit like a player who had won a title 6 days earlier. Eala clawed back, took a 4-2 lead, lost it, found herself in a dogfight at 5-4 down. Then she broke Vekic twice to steal the first set. In the second, she broke in the opening game, and that was the margin. She held for 2-0, then both players held serve the rest of the way until Eala served for it at 5-4. She went down 0-40. 3 break points. Against a player who knew exactly how to close. And Eala saved all 3. She won that game from 0-40 and closed the match in straight sets, 7-5, 6-4. That is not a scoreline that tells the story. The story is 0-40 on serve for the match and the 4 points that followed. Now here is where the week turns from impressive to historic. The second round draw put her across the net from Elena Rybakina, world number 2, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, the 2026 Australian Open champion, who had beaten Aryna Sabalenka in Melbourne just 5 months earlier. Rybakina had been the most consistent player on tour through the first half of the season. She had 31 main draw wins, the most on the entire WTA. She was the only player to reach the round of 16 at all 6 WTA 1000 events in 2026. And the last time these two had met, on the clay at Rome in May, Rybakina had been clinical. She pulled Eala from corner to corner with her forehand, won 45% of Eala's second serve points, and won in straight sets, 6-4, 6-3. There was nothing ambiguous about that result. Rybakina was the better player in Rome, and she knew it, and Eala knew it. So picture the Berlin second round. Rybakina opened the match like she was trying to end it before it started. 3 aces in the first game. Another love hold. A break of Eala's serve. 5 aces and a 4-1 lead inside the first 20 minutes. This was the Rybakina that had won Melbourne, the player whose serve can feel like a closed door, something you cannot get through, something that just keeps pushing you back into the court until she decides to put the forehand away. And at 4-1 in the first set, every piece of conventional logic said this would be a short afternoon. Here is where we need to talk about what Eala actually did, because this was not a collapse by Rybakina. This was an active, tactical intervention by the player on the other side of the net. Eala recognized that she could not outace Rybakina. That contest was lost before the coin toss. Rybakina finished the match with 13 aces. Eala had 4. But Eala also recognized something that the 4-1 scoreline was obscuring. Rybakina was being forced to generate almost every point from scratch. Her winners were spectacular, but they were expensive. She was hitting huge, but she was also making decisions under the kind of return pressure that, over the course of a long match, erodes precision. So Eala stopped trying to redirect power and started trying to neutralize it. She shortened her backswing on returns, aimed for depth rather than angles, and focused on one thing that sounds simple but is extraordinarily hard to execute against someone hitting the ball as hard as Rybakina does. She got the ball back in play. Over and over. She made Rybakina play one more shot. Then one more after that. And the math started changing. Rybakina's unforced errors crept upward. By the time the first set was finished, Rybakina had committed 23 unforced errors and Eala had reeled off 6 consecutive games to win it 7-5. In total, across the full match, Rybakina made 41 unforced errors. Eala made 19. That is a 22-error differential, and that differential is the match. But I want to be precise about what happened after Eala took the first set, because this is where young players lose these matches. They grab a set from an elite opponent, and then the gravity of what they have done settles on them, and the second set becomes a slow contraction. The body tightens. The returns get tentative. The serve speed drops. You see it constantly. The upset that almost was. The first set grabbed and then released. Eala broke Rybakina in the second game of the second set. That is the opposite of contraction. That is expansion. She held for 2-0, then 3-1, then 4-2. She hit a cross-court forehand winner that Rybakina could only watch as it passed her. She fired her fourth ace at 15-30, down a break point while serving at 5-4 in the second set, with a match on her racket. Her fourth ace of the entire match. She had been saving it. And then 2 points later, a Rybakina error ended it. 7-5, 6-4 in 1 hour and 32 minutes. What she said afterward tells you about the internal experience of that hour and 32 minutes better than any analysis can. I am a little foggy right now. I'm still shaking, and I was shaking on match point too. She called her father. They screamed into the phone. Her mother was there. It was not composed. It was not the rehearsed gratitude of someone who expected this. It was the honest overwhelm of someone who had just beaten the second-best tennis player on earth and could feel what that meant coursing through her body in real time. The quarterfinal opponent was Alina Svitolina, world number 8, former world number 3, a mother who had returned to elite-level tennis and was playing some of the best tennis of her late career. In the month before Berlin, Svitolina had beaten the world numbers 2, 3, and 4 in consecutive matches at another tournament. This was not a depleted veteran surviving on guile. This was someone who had recently demonstrated she could beat anyone. And Eala went out and won 6-3, 6-4, and the scoreline this time actually does tell the story, because the match followed a pattern that Eala dictated from the first game. She broke in the second game, held comfortably, and was up 3-0 before Svitolina could establish a foothold. When Svitolina broke back in the seventh game to make it 4-3, Eala broke right back in the eighth. Immediately. No hesitation, no regression, no letting the momentum slip. That is a different player from the one who lost to Rybakina in Rome. In Rome, when the pressure shifted, Eala's level dropped. In Berlin, when the pressure shifted, she answered it with a break of serve. That is not a subtle difference. That is the difference between someone competing at the top level and someone winning at the top level. The second set followed an almost identical script. Eala broke early, built a lead, watched Svitolina claw back, then served it out without drama. Her return game was the engine again, winning more first serve and second serve return points than Svitolina across both sets. She fired 4 aces and maintained a higher first serve percentage despite Svitolina's 4 aces. Her aggression on return was not reckless. It was measured. She was choosing her moments to step in, reading the serve early, and making Svitolina feel the same accumulating pressure that Rybakina had felt 2 days earlier. This was her 6th career top 10 victory. All 6 in straight sets. 4 of them against top 5 opponents. That is not a statistical oddity or a lucky streak. That is a pattern, and patterns deserve to be named. When Eala plays opponents in the top 10, she does not split sets with them and then scrape through a decider. She beats them cleanly. She beats them in 2. The consistency of that margin suggests something structural about how her game interacts with the games of the very best, something about the return, the movement, the capacity to absorb pace and redirect it. Whatever it is, the data says it is real. The semi-final against Linda Noskova was a different kind of education. Rain delayed the start. Noskova was playing the best tennis of her career that week, had not dropped a set in 4 matches, and was hitting through the ball with a ferocity that made Eala's return game look ordinary for the first time all tournament. Noskova broke early and often, fired 9 aces and 33 winners against just 15 unforced errors, and won 6-2, 6-4 in 69 minutes. It was dominant. There is no sugarcoating it. But there is something worth noticing in the second set. Down 3-1 and facing a player who seemed to be accelerating, Eala won 3 consecutive games to take a 4-3 lead. She broke Noskova's serve, held her own twice, and for 10 minutes, she had wrestled the match back to a place where anything was possible. Noskova responded with 3 straight games of her own to close it, and that response was the difference in quality between a player in a flow state and a player who had spent a week pushing herself to the edge. But the fact that Eala found that 4-3 lead at all, against someone hitting 33 winners in a 69-minute match, says that the semi-final loss was about the opponent's level, not about Eala's regression. There is a difference between being beaten and being broken. Eala was beaten. She walked off that court with her game intact. When the rankings updated the following Monday, Eala had climbed 5 spots to world number 30. That meant she would be seeded at Wimbledon. 29 seed, her name printed in the draw with the bracket protection that comes with a seeding, walking into the All England club not as a qualifier, not as a wild card hoping for a friendly draw, but as a seeded player expected to win her first round match. She was 21 years old. From Quezon City. Trained in Mallorca. Playing the grass court tennis of her life at a time when the calendar was handing her the biggest stages the sport offers. The numbers from Berlin paint a specific picture. In 3 wins, Eala beat opponents ranked 2nd, 8th, and 33rd in the world, all in straight sets. Her grass court record for the season stood at 9 wins and 1 loss. She had won a title, reached a WTA 500 semifinal for the first time, and accumulated enough ranking points and prize money to secure her position inside the top 30. That Birmingham to Berlin stretch of 3 weeks was the most productive and visible stretch of tennis in Philippine history. But I want to close on something other than the rankings and the records, because what made Berlin matter was not the outcomes alone. It was the how. Eala did not win those matches by playing safe. She did not sit back and wait for Rybakina or Svitolina to hand her the match through errors. She engineered those errors. She created the conditions under which elite players lost their rhythm. She returned with intention, served with increasing authority as matches went on, and showed a capacity for tactical adjustment under duress that is among the rarest qualities a young player can possess. She described it herself in one word.